Hello and welcome to another episode of the Jungle Gyms podcast. Today is Tuesday, the 25th of August, and of course, it is a momentous evening ahead of us, James. Well, it's the second second tie of the qualifier to get in the Champions League. This is big time. Like this, it's kind of makes or breaks the complexion of your season, James. 3-0 for the first leg, but how nervous are you going into tonight?
Very nervous. I think it was always the same. I've seen a lot of people saying, I wish we got the fourth, but I think even if we scored 4 or 5, I think we're probably the only team in Europe that you can come out with a result like that and say one more would have probably killed it. But no, I'm looking forward to it. I'm still probably as nervous as I would have been if it was 1-0 or 1 each or whatever. But I do fancy us to score, and just fingers crossed that we can get the first goal and kind of settle any nerves that we've got.
Mm-hmm. And a wee message for Paul Maguire. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for commenting. But you're right. Whenever you finish the first leg 3-0, I think most teams in Europe would say it's done. I can't really think of many games where a deficit like that's been overturned. You think of like the big games like was it Barcelona and Roma at one point, and Barcelona and PSG. I think that happened in the same season. I think, possibly, correct me if I'm wrong. But this is Celtic we're talking about, and we've got a fear. We've been conditioned to have a fear playing away in Europe, and it's been like that for like the majority of our lifetimes anyway, James. What's really striking about the first leg, and I guess we're going to be talking about the game from last Wednesday and obviously tonight's game. We're just going to be waiting for whenever the lineup gets announced for tonight, so we'll have an eye on that. But
literally just come out the news. It's the same team as last week. Trusty's made it.
Aye, well, that's what you would have expected. I wouldn't have made any changes.
There was a wee question mark of Trusty though. We have no training yesterday, but I think Martin O'Neill said they just had an upset stomach or something. So he's made it. He's in.
Aye. Well, that is what it is. What I was going to say was what I found really striking from last Wednesday was the scoreline against the performance of both teams. Now, I thought that the Celtic performance was, on the whole, very, very good. However, that's a kind of holistic opinion of it. Like, there were moments in the game where we were getting caught out. They had a plethora of chances. And I don't know if you ever watched that Celtic podcast. Is it Celtic Underground? It's Alan Morrison who's part of it, along with the American guy. And they do the stats. Now, I'm not going to bore people with stats, and I'm not really a great believer in them. But he spoke about the stats variance, the XG variance, and he said that was one of those games where just things fell right for Celtic. And Lask, XG wise, they should have scored at least one, maybe more, but it just didn't fall in their favour. The outcome didn't match the XG, and have a bit of patience with me, but it almost kind of was reflective of Hearts' season last season, where they got so far despite, you're like, how is this happening? It was just a run of luck. Now, bring it back to the game last Wednesday. I wouldn't say that Celtic were lucky, but you could say that Lask were unlucky to a regard. And some of the goals that we scored, like 2 of them were worldies, like all 3 of them, if you did like goal of the month competitions, all 3 of them on the day could have won that, or on the month could have won the competition. But things went really, really well for Celtic. We took our chances, but we were at times made to look vulnerable. And I think that the opposition team have commanded our respect. So, James, I guess you understand the point that I'm making there. There was a lot of jeopardy in the last game, and I'm fearing there could be more of it tonight.
I think that's always going to be the case going away for him, though, to be fair. But in terms of, look, if you look at the game on its kind of merits last week, it probably wasn't a 3-0 game. But we were clinical, and obviously Lask weren't they, barring the offside screamer that they scored after 30 seconds. But no, we were clinical, and it's something, I mean, take us back a year ago against Kairat Omati when we could barely create a chance, never mind score a goal. With Adamida up front, James Forrest was starting as well. And you fast forward a year, and there's been major surgery done on the forward line, which obviously was needed. But I think that's not to go too negative, obviously, before the game, but I think that's where the frustrations lay in previous years, because this year, to an extent, we have prepared. We still could have done more, but we have kind of prepared for the qualifier. And obviously, last week, the 3-0 victory, and Duran especially getting two of them, it kind of reaps the rewards of it. And you just think, well, why could we not have done that in the past? Had we brought in a striker this time last year, we'd have probably have made it, but we've done it this year. I still think there is obviously work to be done. I still think a wee bit of work needs done in the midfield, and obviously kind of in the full-back areas as well. Centre-back seems to be boxed off with the four of them, according to Martin O'Neill, but there's work to be done in the defence. But up front, I think that's you basically reap the rewards of preparing for the qualifier, which we did last week, and then obviously getting into the night, probably expect it to be a wee bit more. I don't know if I'd say backs to the wall, because I don't think I've spoke to anybody that doesn't fancy us to score the night. But they're going to need to come out and obviously go for it, and I think they are by and large a counter-attacking team, so it'll be something that's a wee bit different for them as well. You just hope that frees up space kind of further up the park for us to capitalise and maybe get a goal at least, if not a positive result overall in terms of our draw. But I feel kind of quietly confident maybe about getting a score draw or something tonight. I'm quietly optimistic.
It's interesting the point that you make about them not really being a possession team, and that's what I've heard from the Austrian experts. Even in their league domestically, they're not a possession-based team. They do a bit of everything, but one of their traits is not to, always edge possession in games. And I was kind of trying to work out how the game will be, and you said yourself you don't really see it as a typical backs to the wall performance. Both teams are equally capable of scoring against each other tonight. I found that they were quite a confident team whenever they had the ball at Parkhead, and obviously that will be, amplified even more so tonight, playing at their home ground amongst their fans. I don't know what the atmosphere will be like. I don't know how intimidating it'll be like. Some Celtic players that they're making their first, Duran anyway, and who's first kind of time representing Celtic in Europe this season anyway. Sinisalo, I don't know if he had any European games last season, but I think that there's enough experience in the team, especially with Callum McGregor, and we don't really I think that the team that we've got is good enough to score. Whether we draw, whether it's a narrow defeat, whether we win, of course, that will be enough to get us through. But it's really interesting to anticipate how the game is going to be. Who do you think, this might be a lazy question, but is there any particular player who will be really pivotal? Like, for example, who for holding the ball up? If the ball isn't sticking for him, then that could be a major worry. And I guess one other thing I was going to throw at you was, how are they going to counter Celtic? How are they going to play against us? And one thing that I do fear is the ball over the top. It worked twice against Cameron Carter-Vickers early in the game. I wonder if they might try to exploit that.
That actually kind of, I didn't know anything about them prior to last week, but it did surprise me a wee bit with just how direct they were, especially as you say after 30 seconds when they scored that goal. But even after that, the big guy up front, is it Adeniran or something, the number 7 that scored the header? He kind of put me in mind of Dembele a bit, kind of big, powerful, quick, strong. He looked a cracking player. I don't know what age he is or anything like that, but he looked a good player. But in terms of the game tonight, I think Callum McGregor, because I think it's been a kind of criticism for a wee while now, in games where we maybe are defending a wee bit more in Europe, that we can get overrun in midfield or we can get bullied in midfield. I've said it myself. I think Callum McGregor started the season brilliantly. In all the games, even the first game of the season against Dundee, I thought it was quite good. But I just obviously hope he keeps it up tonight. And we can kind of run the game. He can run the game for midfield. I thought Bibber looked pretty handy last week as well. I think you could get through the full team, to be honest, for last week. Carter-Vickers maybe had a wee shaky 15-20 minutes at the start, but he kind of grew into the game, kind of sussed out their strikers, and I think that obviously be positive as well. They'll say the same also, but we've kind of suss them out a wee bit. We know what to expect, so they can maybe route one to an extent. Fitba won't catch as cold as it did last week. The only thing that gives me the fear, and it's just typical Celtic stuff, is that the twice that we've qualified through obviously the qualifiers, we took decent leads to Beersheva and Astana in Kazakhstan, and it wasn't the most comfortable night, but we did get through. We did get through both times, but Beersheva in particular, I think that was that the only penalty Craig Gordon saved in his Celtic career that night. So it's like, hopefully it's not a night like that. It's a wee bit more comfortable, but nah, I look forward to it. And as I say, I think the midfield, if I was to pick anybody in particular, Callum McGregor, but the midfield as a whole, I think will need to stand up and be counted for.
I was going to talk to you about the midfield, and I think it was after the Dundee United game where there was a lot of chat among Celtic fans that with Engels gone and the shielding that he did, being able to cover spaces defensively, largely kind of gone unnoticed by me certainly. His off the ball work was very good, and Dundee United perhaps showed that. I was nervous going into the game last Wednesday because obviously it was going to be Nygren. Nygren's had a lot of criticism for not doing the dirty stuff, the ugly stuff off the ball. Callum McGregor, who again gets criticised for not being a defensive number 6, and then Bauer, who just by the eye test doesn't look like a physical player. He's very, very new to Celtic. He put a few misplaced passes in the away game to Dundee United, and you're thinking this might not go right for us. We might not have the right chemistry. And then when I was obviously at the game like yourself and watching it, and I'm thinking, well, we never really had any other options. We needed to take a lead away, and we've went with. It's just the way that the cards have been dealt. It was an attacking midfield that we had. Bauer likes to get up, and Nygren has actually, apart from his prolificacy in front of goal, Nygren has actually been helping out a little bit here and there. If you've noticed it, he's kind of improved his midfield duties, which is great to see. And just the way that the night panned out, there were a couple of scary moments whenever we did lose possession, but the way that the chemistry between Callum McGregor and Bauer, who were quite close, were making options for each other. Nygren was making options for each other. It looked like offence was the best tactic, and that kind of reaped the rewards, at the end of the day. So fast forward to tonight, and the cynical kind of scared Celtic fan in me, it says, I wish this was a time where we did have a defensive midfielder. But then again, as I say, you play the cards that you're dealt, and maybe the midfield trio will not look out of place. Maybe they will be able to build attacks. They'll be able to cover their defence. How vulnerable do you think the midfield will be? I know that you said that McGregor will have a big even tonight, but how well do you think that they can work tonight against whatever onslaught we might face?
Well, a lot of it kind of depends on Lask, to be honest, because there was times last week where they were just totally bypassing the midfield and going for the kind of diagonal or just a straight ball at the top. So if they're going to do that again, then hopefully you would only really kind of notice the midfield when we're in possession. They'll no need to kind of get stuck in as such, if you know what I mean. They'll no need to do the dirty side of the game. You just hope Cameron Carter-Vickers and Austin Trusty's heading the ball away for 90 minutes. But look, I think in terms of the midfield, it's really all that we can do. Don't get me wrong, for what we've seen of Bauer, he looks the part. Nygren's flying, as you say, this season, and McGregor's form's definitely picked up in comparison to last year. But you look at the bench, Hatate's kind of ran his race here, and then out with that, I can't even really think anybody else. Bernardo's away, Engels is away, so we can only really, Luke McCowan's no good enough for this level, in my opinion. So I think that's only 3 it can be, really. And maybe Hatate will go on towards the end of the game as he did last week. Just to change tact, what was your take on Hatate last week? Because I've seen people saying it was the Hatate old, and then I've seen people saying that he was absolutely stinking when he came on and just kept getting the ball away.
Look, I heard one comment that he almost allowed a chance for them to score, which for some reason I must have missed when I was watching it. I thought Hatate looked all right. I thought I wasn't worried whenever he came on, and what really encouraged me was the ovation that he got A lot of people were singing his name whenever he came on. It's like he'd been injured for 6 months or something like that. But I think that was brilliant for the Celtic support, the way that they backed him whenever he came on. For me, he looked all right. So and Hatate was really important for one of the goals, wasn't he? Because he made like an unselfish run for Duran's second, the final goal of the game. He made an unselfish run to create space. He was pivotal in that. What did you think? I thought that he wasn't a liability.
No, I thought it was quite good as well, to be honest. And I've never really been Hatate's biggest fan. The way you are with Engels is pretty much the way I've been with Hatate through his full kind of Celtic career. I see it in once every kind of 3 or 4 games at most, and he just never really seems to keep it up. Obviously, apart from that initial spell when he came in, but no, I thought it was all right. That's how when I came out, the guys I was there with were kind of slaughtering them, saying that he killed us when he came on and all that, and I thought it was all right, as you say. The third goal's a cracker. I think who did well was with a wee touch out wide also, but no, I was really surprised at that. And then even just reading the forums and stuff, it was a really, really kind of mixed reviews that he was getting, but it wasn't kind of straight down the middle. It was one extreme or the other.
So the other thing I want to talk to you about personnel-wise is the pressure that Donovan will be under tonight. Now, Donovan is in his last game, last Wednesday. I thought that he had a wee bit of a shaky start, and he was on the same side as where I was in the south stand, and he maybe wasn't brave enough in the ball. Maybe had like 1 or 2 passes which didn't stick to their man, and he looked a wee bit flustered. And Martin O'Neill started talking to him, and don't know what Martin O'Neill said, but Martin, for a couple of minutes, looked as if he was kind of coaching him. And then after that, it just seemed really at ease. Just that Midas touch by Martin O'Neill, I don't know, but obviously credit to Donovan. He put in some really good tackles. He looked as if he wasn't fazed by the occasion. It's just one of those moments where you see a Celtic player who comes through the ranks, and you see them perform well in Europe in a game that really, really matters. And by the end of it, if Duran never scored those 2 goals, Donovan could easily have been man of the match. It was so pleasing, and as I said, kind of made reference to it, we've seen those kind of coming of age games for players. So 2 questions to you. How do you think Donovan will acquit himself tonight? And I guess the other thing is with AG being out, what is it going to be, 6 to 8 weeks? There's a lot of talk about bringing in a right back. Obviously, this utility player, Sigurd, he can maybe do that, and the defensive mid. However, is there parallels between this sliding doors moment for Donovan? Obviously, he came in because AJ got injured last year. That's only why he's getting this much exposure. But is there a sliding doors moment because it's happening again now? AJ been out once more. Comparable to Kieran Tierney. Whenever Izagiri, I think he might get injured, and Tierney was put in, albeit Tierney was played in a time where there wasn't as much jeopardy as what Celtic are going through right now, higher stakes, both domestically and in Europe. Tierney was given this moment, and he flourished. Does Donovan have that ceiling? So again, that question, and how will he quit himself tonight?
Well, hopefully he'll just pick up where he left off last week. But obviously, I don't sit kind of too far away from you. I'm kind of just round the corner on the Celtic end, right enough. But at the first kind of 10-15 minutes, I thought he was really kind of unsure of himself, really safe. Everything had to be back into the centre half. Even when there was options on going forward, everything was safe. Back to the goalie or back to the centre halves. And then he clipped one over the tap, and Duran, I think he got onto it, and then he done it again, and it was just a wee bit too long, and it trickled out. But it seemed as if he took a lot of confidence for that. And then every time he was kind of looking forward and going forward and jumping into tackles and everything. And that's I've really been kind of unsure of Donovan up to last week, because I thought he was a kind of he never really jumped out at me. He was always just kind of that kind of steady Eddie type, which I suppose isn't a bad thing. But when you see a young boy coming in, you kind of want to see them, like you say, be the next Kieran Tierney or be the next James Forrest. It's just a natural thing that you want to stick out. And up until that, so fingers crossed he just picks up where he's left off and carries that into the right. In terms of where we sit at right back now with Alistair Johnson, I'm probably going to contradict myself a wee bit because I've been on here in the past and I've moaned about youth development and when young players play well and they don't really get a chance. I'll contradict myself with saying I'd probably still bring in another right back, and that's no a slight on Kobe Donovan. Firstly, we need to see obviously if he can keep that level up, which we all hope he does. But it's more the other side with Alistair Johnson. I don't rate Tony Ralston. That's obviously kind of made that clear time and time again. I just don't rate him at all. But it's more the Alistair Johnson side of it. Alistair Johnson, is that now 3 hamstring injuries, more or less back to back he's had? It's not been a great gap in between each of them.
Is the current one a hammy as well? Yeah,
I'm sure it is. Aye, and I think the last time was it Roma or Sturm Graz? He'd just come back for injury and then get injured again. It was the same thing. So he's becoming injury prone, obviously, and unreliable as horrible as it is. So I know we're saying he's back in October, but if he's back in October, he could be out again come November or the start of December. Do you know what I mean? So even if it was on loan, I'd maybe look to bring somebody in, kind of similar to what we've done with Araujo, because I think there still will be game time for Donovan there. I think if we bring somebody in, even if it is Litziger, I'd be looking to move Ralston on regardless. But if we bring another right back in, then you can't have 4 right backs when everybody's fit competing for one place. So you'd need to move Ralston on, and then if Johnson does get back to fitness, need to see in January or the summer if there's still interest in him. But no, look, I'm happy enough for Donovan to keep the place to now, but come the close of the window, I'd like to see somebody else come in, even if it is on loan for a season.
Fair enough. I'm looking at this bench right now for Celtic. I'm trying to think of who would you bring on. You've got Forrest, Hassan, Hatate. We've spoken about him. Up front, you've got Osmond. Obviously, you've got Johnny Kenny. I'd be very surprised if Johnny Kenny got any minutes. But Osmond, I'm sure, will be really wanting to get some minutes.
I actually feel a bit sorry for Osmond. He's kind of became the forgotten man. Obviously, with how last season ended and the goal in the semi-final and everything, they've really, really high hopes for him. But obviously, with Hu and Duran coming in, he seems to be a wee bit of the forgotten man. He's just kind of getting 5-10 minutes here and there. Maybe we at him at the weekend, didn't we? Was it Falkirk on Saturday?
I don't know. I'm abroad anyway, so I'll be missing it.
Lucky for some. No, I'm sure it is.
You're right.
Is it Falkirk?
Saturday 3 o'clock, a rarity for a Celtic fan.
So I'd maybe, even if we obviously get through the night, I'd maybe like to see Osmond get a game. I don't know, can Osmond play off the wing? Has he done that before?
He came on against the Huns at Hampden and he played off the wing for a bit. Do you remember? I'm pretty sure he did. And you've got Tinecki as well. I guess one player who will be really important tonight, and he is probably the most understated in the 11, is Yang. Yang is very hot and cold going forward. I saw it last Wednesday where he would beat a man and then he had an opening, either make a shot or pass it or shoot, but then he would try and double up again, go back on his other foot, and by that point the defender would recover. No opportunity was lost. Yang is great for getting into those positions, but he's great at fluffing his lines too. One really redeeming quality about Yang is his defensive backtracking. I think that'll be really, really important, especially in Europe. And it was also good to see that Duran, after scoring those 2 goals, after getting his man of the match performance, he was still willing to run back. He out-sprinted 2 of the opposition players to get to the ball to eventually force a goal kick for Celtic. Really, really pleasing to see. People who've got quality, but also the work ethic as well. So those players are going to be really important to help at the full backs, but obviously to track back as well. It's going to have to be a a full team performance, and I guess we can't afford to have many passengers tonight. But James, 7 out of 9, that's the track record. Are we seeing, I hate to say it, I'm scared to say it, are we seeing a slight change of things with the change of transfer strategy? Does that spell fortune for us in the Champions League? Does it tell you that?
Well, there's definitely seems to have been some change, just with the fact that obviously we've gone out and signed in who in Duran in particular, prior to the qualifier. That's like everybody will have their own opinion on it, but I hate it's kind of going on the new way Genetis and who's the other one? It's no Sigger or Memic.
The
Mamic,
Serbian.
aye. The wait till we get into the Champions League before we sign them, and it's something that I've never bought into. I just think that's an excuse. I mean, the guy Memic is playing with Slovan Liberec, and I don't know who else is linked to him, but I can't imagine there'll be too many kind of Champions League level teams. And Genetis, I think Salzburg will link to him. Salzburg, I think, are Europa League this year, or possibly even qualifiers for Europa League this year. And obviously Torino's not playing in the Champions League. So I just think if you go and put the money down for them, they will come. The signings of Duran and who were kind of a change of strategy in the sense that we've actually, there seems to have been a bit of scouting involved in that, and it's not just been agents. It's came to us, it was waiting in the fish, jumping the boat, as we used to say. There's actually been a bit of kind of scouting involved with that, so hopefully there's more to come. If we qualify the night, then we can start taking care of the midfield and the defence as well, the work that needs done there. But as I say, as good as it is and as good as the players have looked, I thought Hassan, get me wrong, when Hassan came on at Tannadice, he looked as if he'd fucking slept with a football player. But when he came on last week, I thought he was really, really good. He looked really tricky, he was really direct, just still, you've got 3-0 with 15 minutes left or whatever it was, just constantly wanting to attack. So there's obviously positive signs there. But you can't help but just feel annoyed that this is all that we've wanted, and you know you're never going to get it all done in time for the qualifiers. I get deals take time and all the rest of it, and other teams will have qualifiers kind of similar to what we wanted to do with Engels and keep holding for them. I get all that side of it, but I just think getting back to previous years, why could we not have done this? And I mean, we're still, what are we, 11 million in profit in transfers with the Engels sale and the Maida sale. So as much as there's a change of strategy, there's maybe a change of kind of recruitment and scouting side of it, as opposed to an actual change in business strategy, because we're still in profit. There's still probably players there that will get shipped on. Guys like Balikwisha, Hatate will probably go, Johnny Kenny will probably go, so possibly Tony Ralston as well. So there's going to be another, up to, would you say, maybe kind of 10 million or so coming in, probably more, when you tally it all up for them, and then hopefully you've got Champions League money to go and tap it. So you're still going to come out the window just about breaking even if we sign the players that we want to sign. Then you have the Champions League money banked, and that's what we've wanted for ages. So hopefully, and we've all said it before, we get to a point and then it's a glass ceiling and we don't get through it, but hopefully it is a change in strategy and we can keep it up moving forward. But the only irritating thing is if there has been a genuine change, this will be the last year I'll having to play one qualifier, because I think it goes back, is it 3 qualifiers next year?
I heard that we're going. I heard from one of the comments on a Celtic YouTube from earlier on today was that we go into the second round 2.
Aye, so that'd be 2-3 and then a playoff, wouldn't it?
Aye. And that would take place mid-July, about 16th, 17th of July, which the point was made that that's going to be the case. Well, I think it is going to be the case. It tells you that we really need to get recruitment right for just now. So if you think about, fast forward a year, Cal McGregor is going to be 34 years old. Oxlade-Chamberlain, well, absolutely sure that he will have left the club by next summer. So that means that if we're talking about midfielders, for example, like bringing in 2 more.
Possibly might need a new manager in Tappy as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it means that this is the epitome of what was the phrase? Repairing your roof whenever the sun is shining. This is the epitome of that, because we can't repeat what we're doing now next season at this time next season, because it'll be too late. We need the bodies in the door right now. So whenever if Cam McGregor shows any signs of deteriorating, then we need bodies in right now who'll be able to stand up. And if Bauer doesn't cut the mustard this season, just for example, we need another couple of bodies in there who can really stand up, because if we fail to get through the Champions League again the following season, then the coefficient points are just going to drop. And it looks like the Huns aren't really going to be much use in that department either. So it's really going to be all on us. All dependencies on us. So we really need to think right now, but for the future as well, planning for ahead. So we need to get this right. And I was thinking, like, all these new midfielders that we're getting linked with, like Sigurd, who can play both Mamic and Genetis. That sounds like it's going to be overcrowded, but so be it. If people have to drop to the bench, it means that overall the squad is going to be much more reliable. And then, as I said, depending on them for next season when they've already bedded in, that's going to be really, really important.
But I think, don't get me wrong, if we go out and spend 10 million on Genetis, he's going to play, similar to spending the money on who he's going to play regardless. But I think, but see guys like, well, Bauer in particular, I think he's maybe been like a kind of, not a squad player as such, because that makes him sound like a kind of Luke McEwen type, but I don't think he'll have been brought in for the first team. I think in an ideal world scenario, we'd have Engels playing in there now, and then Engels would go after the qualifier. If we get Genetis in, if we get Sigurd in, whoever it is, as you say, Sigurd can play there as well. But I mean, just purely in terms of a numbers basis, I would much rather, as David were doing the new, going out and signing, was it Paderborn, and he was their player of the year or young player of the year last year, going out and signing Genetis, who is kind of similar profile to Engels, in the sense he's playing in a decent league. He's still young. He's got a fair few appearances in that league. Signing these guys as opposed to going out and Luke McEwen for whatever it was, and kind of Tanecki and all the hash. I know we spent £5 million in Tanecki, but it was a bit of a kind of fuck up. And who was the other guy we were in for at the time? I can't remember his name. Was it Balikwisha, in fact? Was that the same Monday we signed Balikwisha? But Tanecki was possible cheaper, and then we ended up getting him right at the end of the window and paying way over the odds for it. So there's definitely, look, I'll be the first to have a go at the board, and I'm not at the point yet of praising them. I've seen people, the Michael Nicholson with the Tam Mullen toaster and all that for still game, and I'm not quite at that point yet, because a lot of it is still rumours. The business that we have done looks good, but there is still business that needs to be done, just even purely for a numbers point. And just to get back to what we were saying, losing guys like Bernardo, you'd probably say McEwen isn't good enough now. Engels is away, Hattati will be gone, so the midfield needed a revamp. Like you say, Callum McGregor's going to be a year older, so we need to think in a longer term there as well. So I definitely needed a revamp, and I'm just glad that we're at the way it seems to be that we're going about it based on the rumours as well.
See, if you were to rank the priority of getting players in for for positions with the remaining time that we've got left. So obviously, if you're just starting from the back, you've got a goalkeeper, left back cover, right back, whether it be a first choice or a reserve right back, centre back. Who knows? I'm not fully convinced that Martin O'Neill says that he wants Dane Murray to be our fourth choice after we put in that bid for Benjamin Arthur. So goalkeeper, the two full backs, possibly a centre back. But again, this is about priorities. And then midfielders, central midfielders, different variety of those central midfielders. Do you really want a defensive one? And potentially even a left winger. And that opens the question about, are we going to kind of continue with Yang and hope that Jota does come back? Because I remember Martin O'Neill saying he's planning this season without Jota. and now I'm hearing a lot of chatter to say, oh, Jota's, coming on leaps and bounds and training and stuff like that. So, if you were to rank the recruitment, what would be your number one that you must have?
We need a left back, just simply because we don't. If Tierney gets injured, it's going to be Liam Scales that plays there, and then that's only leaving you with 3 centre backs. So our left back has to be top of the list, which is obviously it's going to be a backup for Tierney. But we need a left back, as I say, even with Adam Montgomery, as much as he's way down the kind of pecking order, but there is literally Kieran Tierney as the only left back to trade at the club now. So definitely a left back. And then you're probably, where would you go after that? I think we need another winger as well. Like you say, I've never been a kind of fully card carrying member of the young gang just yet. He's definitely improved, but I still think we can do better. Goalkeeper as well. Where do you stand on goalkeeper? Obviously, we need one, but would you like to see us go out and sign a number one, or do you have faith in Sinisalo and then go out and sign a backup?
I would definitely need a goalkeeper. And I've said that I want a goalkeeper with character, somebody of the ilk of a Boric or Fraser Forster. And if you think about Martin O'Neill teams, with Celtic last time round, it was never his forte to identify good goalkeepers and to stick with them, for Magnus Edmund to Rab Douglas and people of that nature. Has he learned from that? What does he think of Sinisalo? I think Sinisalo, how would you rate Sinisalo out of 10 from the time that he's been given the gloves? A 7? Would you say a 7 maybe? Was that being unfair on him? But I don't think that you should overpraise someone whenever they don't deserve it. I think he's been a steady Eddie. I think that's fair. Sinisalo's been a steady Eddie. I like a goalkeeper who's imposing and who is going to have some character. Don't know if Sinisalo's got that. So I would like a new guy, but do you spend 4 or 5 million in someone?
Well, that was his name's right in my head. Is
back in one moment, mate. Sorry, my daughter's.
No, any worries. Is it Toth? I think the guy's name is the Blackburn goalie. So I think it was it 4 or 5 million we were looking at for him. So if you're paying 4 or 5 million for a goalkeeper, like you say, we're going to spend that money on a backup. It'd be interesting to see. And when you think back to his name's escaped me as well. The guy who linked with for Las Palmas for ages. I think he's gone to Saudi Arabia now.
I heard that. Aye.
What's his name? His name's right. Dinko Horkas. Aye. I mean, they kind of. He at least, I know Hoth. Is it Hoth or Toth? That's the Blackburn goalie.
Toth, I think.
Toth. I know he's obviously playing in the Championship, but they've kind of got half decent pedigree behind him. And I know Sinisalo was highly rated at Aston Villa. Was it Exeter he was out on loan at as well? And I think he get rave reviews down there as well. So it'll be interesting to see where we go. Oh, have I frozen?
All right, James, how you doing?
Oh, we're back. I don't know what happened there. My laptop doesn't seem to like my internet very much.
Aye, fuck knows what's happened. Look, I think we'll wrap it up for tonight anyway. The game will be on in half an hour.
So sorry about the technical issues, but we'll wrap it up because I don't know what's happening with my computer anyway. My camera's fucked again. Christ knows. Right, anyway, James, enjoy the game. To everybody in the comments, thanks very much for tuning in. Enjoy the game. Hail, hail. Cheerio.